Greetings. Welcome to Dr. English's Book Lovers Book Club. I'm Dr. English and I teach English. This week I'm going to review the book Dr. Bird's Advice for Sad Poets by Evan Roskos. And I just want to say, if you see this up here, you know that I have bought this from Thrift Books, and I highly recommend Thrift Books. This was $3, and it was free shipping, so I was pretty pleased with that. Between the Thrift Books and my local library, I'm very happy. This book was a book that my students in their book club group, they didn't really promote this. They didn't feel like they really liked it. And I, on the other hand, I read through it so quickly. I think I read it in a day. I stayed up way too late reading it, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't put it down. I was just so interested in it. And it features one of my favorite poets, Walt Whitman, and I love that. So I have to read this at the very beginning, and then I'll go on and talk a little bit more, but this was the beginning of the book, and I, of course, immediately fell in love with it. I yawp most mornings to irritate my father, the brute. Yawp, yawp. It moves him out of the bathroom faster. He responds with the gruff, all right. He dislikes things that seem like fun. I do not yawp like Walt Whitman for fun. Ever since the brute literally threw my older sister Jory out of the house, I yawp at him because he hates it. My father says reciting Walt Whitman is impractical, irrational. My father says even reading Walt Whitman is a waste of time, despite the fact that we share his last name. My father says Walt Whitman never made a dime, which is not true. I looked it up, not on Wikipedia, but in a book that also said Walt used to write reviews for Leaves of Grass, his own book, under fake names. Who does that? Walt does. The perfect poet for me. I'm a depressed, anxious kid. I hate myself, but I love Walt Whitman. The kook. I need to be more positive, so I wake myself up every morning with the song of myself. Walt says, I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you should assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I say, I am James Whitman. I define myself and answer the question that was asked with my momentous birth. I am light, I am truth, I am might, I am youth. I assume myself and become what you assume. I leap from my bed, bedraggled but lively, vigorous, not slow-poked, and sapped with misery, despite my eyes and aching teeth, which grind all night. And so as soon as I read that, I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. I have to finish reading this. So James is lovely. Jory, you don't know until the very end, like, why she gets kicked out of school. Sorry for the bump of my camera. And so it's just like so beautifully done, like the storyline of it and the way that the story is structured. I love that it's like not until you get a few hints, maybe a little foreshadowing. But I was totally floored by what happened. I wasn't expecting that. I think one of the reasons why some of my students didn't like the book, and I felt like in this particular class last fall, that there were several students who were tentative about books with suicidal ideation. But in this book, I feel like the author did a really good job of showing a way that a young person could like make really great positive choices in dealing with the kinds of suicidal ideations. There's abuse in this book, but it's not explicit. You just know through James's narration. And a lot of it is very vague. A lot of it is just, it's, emotional abuse. But what I really appreciated about this book is that, excuse me, James gets a part-time job because he knows he needs therapy to help him through some of these thoughts he's having. But even before he gets this job, from his buddy Derek helps him get this job, he's talking to his own therapist in his mind, who is Dr. Bird, who is a pigeon. And there's a little pigeon on the cover, which I was just like, this is so clever. So he's constantly has this inner dialogue with Dr. Bird, who's a pigeon, talking about the things that he needs to go and see a therapist for. And so it's just, to me, to have a kid who's just, young, maybe 14, know how much he needs it. And so he saves his money so that he can go to see a therapist, because he knows he needs a therapist. And I always think about my tenure as a high school teacher for 21 years. about how I knew a lot of kids had jobs because they wanted to have a car, they needed clothes. I mean, they, just normal everyday things that some kids, their parents can't provide, or their excess, things that their parents wouldn't buy for them because they can't afford it. But also, teenagers just think they have to have other things, and so a vehicle, which is one of them. But then they need a vehicle to get their job, so it's kind of a vicious circle. But in this case, I just feel like James is unusual in that he wants the extra money to go to therapy, and yeah, because he knows his parents would never pay for it because they just aren't the kind of parents who's like that is people don't really need that, and so I just there's so much a part of James and his fascination with Walt Whitman, and then of course there's Gina, and there's this school, literary magazine, and his sister was going to be a part of that, and then he becomes interested in that, and becomes interested in Gina, and so I feel like Evan Roskos did a really good job of the characterization of James. And I love Derek in this too. Derek is the buddy that gets in the job, and he's kind of his wing. James is like in this really wingman position, but he's not your typical wingman because he's so incredibly shy. But there's just some really funny moments in here that I laughed out loud about that I just thought were so funny. And so it takes a lot to make me laugh out loud in reading a book, but it was just it's a quirky book, and I like quirky books too. Uh, but I just really wanted to find out. Most of all, I wanted to find out like what actually did happen with his sister Jory, because there are parts in it that other people seem like to James that they're just horrible people, and so he doesn't have all the facts, and so I find that interesting because there's just a lot of this kinds of personalities that you have in a lot of young adult novels of certain types of people in your school, and so I really like that. It seems to me it was pretty authentic, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I know that person. um, and so I really enjoyed this book, and I'm gonna read, like, I think this is the whole chapter. It's like 3 pages long, but I think it really embodies something about Roscoe's kind of writing. I keep running, and this is told through James's point of view. I keep running. I'm not a runner though, and I'm dressed for a date, so I get tired and hot quickly. I try to think of the direction of Jory's house, but I'm confused and too upset to recall the map in my mind. What the hell do I know? I call Derek. Oh, what the hell do I do now? Excuse me. I call Derek. What the did you What the did you do to me this time? He screams. Sally just called me screaming about my asshole friend calling her a whore in front of the entire restaurant. I'm sorry, I got mad. I got really mad because Beth got weird, and then I saw Sally and thought she was cheating on you with the hype. I heard Derek talking to Flip in the pizza shop. Something about handwriting, bad addresses, normal concerns. Why did you even say anything to her? I just said, watch her. You're my friend. I needed to defend you. Flip, there's no street with that name. Jesus Christ, man, learn how to write or listen. I hear Flip screaming at Derek, and maybe Derek screaming back, but I'm standing in a quiet strip mall parking lot, so everything seems loud and blurred together in my phone's earpiece. I'm sorry, Derek. Stop talking. I didn't do it to ruin your life. Stop talking. I can't figure out who he's addressing, so I shut up to be safe. I'm quiet and listening to pizza shop shouting, and then there's 3 beeps and the call is dead. Calling back to ask for a ride seems out of the question. Wandering seems reasonable. Whitman wandered through nature, stopped to loaf, stopped to ponder. This, then, is life. Here is what has come to the surface after so many throes and convulsions. Whitman didn't write this for moping moments. It's at a moment when he celebrates the cosmos. But I am incapable of celebration right now. I am a rotting oak, aware of the creaking of my diseased trunk. Gravity strengthens its constant pull. My limbs weaken. I will tumble, though I cannot tumble. My responsibilities crack and groan because I have been irresponsible. I walk west, or what I think is west, because that's what Whitman might suggest in a dark time. Why can't I recall the times that Whitman speaks of darkness? Why can't I feel connected to him, even at this low moment? I recognize a street, a landmark eyesore, a streetlight, a bend in the road. Wandering has brought me to the bug-filled garage apartment of Jory. Something has gone right. I plod up the steps, which creaked like my soul. Was the soul designed to bend like a tree? Maybe. Does it have joints that squeak? Maybe. Knocking on the door produces no results. A light glows in the window, but it's a dim one. Either she can't afford high wattage bulbs or she has left the light on for her late night return home. Dr. Bird pecks on my brain. I try to swish her away with my hand. Do you need drugs? She asks. I don't want to be a zombie. Do zombies get depressed? I'm afraid it will mean I feel nothing. I'll have numb eyes. I'll lose the ability to take pictures or write poems. Are you sure of any of these possibilities? I say I'm not sure of anything, but I'm afraid of losing what little connection to my real brain that I have left. What if your real mind is already gone before behind a curtain? What if the drugs will move the curtain? I don't think drugs move curtains. Could they move mountains? Huge mountains of anxiety that are in the way of your real self. I'm not sure. Are you sure that your real self is the anxiety-ridden, bursting, twisting, unhappy, buzzing, hate-filled, meandering, overtired, sleepless boy? I say I'm not sure who I am. Then would drugs really make a difference? Would the drugs be any worse? I don't want to be artificial. You want to be non-functional? I would rather malfunction than sit and stare at a wall like an unplugged coffee pot. Is this a choice of a result of anxiety and depression? I do not respond. I will ignore Dr. Bird until Jory comes home or I fall asleep. Dr. Bird says, don't you wish you would wake up one day and celebrate yourself? Don't you wish you would wake up one day and celebrate yourself? Don't you wish you would wake up one day and celebrate yourself? I want to scream at my brain, but I'm afraid of waking up Jory's landlord and then getting her kicked out. It seems like I've already ruined enough lives tonight. So in this piece, I love the little the refrain, the repetition of Dr. Bird, the imaginary, pigeon psychiatrist in James's head. So there are other passages like this, but this one really stood out to me. Is that there's this, his inner dialogue that he's going, like he knows these things that he could probably, that would benefit him, but he has doubts about it. So this is definitely a book I would probably teach this book because it's just so lovely, and you could or just maybe read passages out of it if you were having to be teaching Walt Whitman, and then suggest that students read this. But I didn't feel like there was anything too explicit in this. There's some language. I tried to beep some of that out, but I think it's something that you could maybe do as a companion. Some of the passages. And then kids, your students could know, hey, this might be a good book to read. I definitely would have it on my shelf for students to pick up and check out of my personal classroom library. But like I said, this one was one that we did for book club, so I definitely think you could do it for a book club or a novel panel. And novel panels is where students really, spoke up most often about the idea of suicidal ideation. But like I said earlier, I think this is one that really does deal with that, and a way that shows students of this age like what steps they could take to help themselves if they didn't have someone to help them. And like I said, literature circle, book clubs, I definitely agree that this is one that you should have as a group reading or as a supplemental for students who are big readers. And so next week, I'm going to do this book called I'll Give You the Sun. It's by Jandy Nelson, and I can't wait to review this book. This was really a really wonderful book. It's kind of like this, and they're both kind of quirky, but this one is just quirky in a way that is absolutely stunningly beautiful. So thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.